For James, first, your offensive line not allowing a sack yet. What goes into that? Is it just the efficiency of the offensive line? Is it Tyree Jackson's mobility? Is it both? Is there something else that goes into the equation?
I think there's a lot of factors that come into play when you're talking about not giving up a sack, because obviously there's been times this season where we haven't had the best protection, and Tyree's kind of helped us get out of it. But I think a thing that helps us is that we do a tremendous job preparing for our opponent and knowing what they're going to do. So.
What goes into that preparation?
A lot of film study, kind of understanding and recognizing something that you're weak at. Like we'll understand, like, all right, we're not that great at this, so that's something we're going to work on this week, and that's something that potentially a team could try and attack us with. And over the last couple of weeks, we've been able to stifle what they've been bringing.
You did have to work some new players into the offensive line, James, so can you talk about the transition of getting a couple of new starters in and the fact that it obviously has fallen into place so well?
Paul Nosworthy, I can think of off the top of my head, just him coming in this season and playing tremendous has really helped us, especially in the pass game. Paul's done a great job. Coyote as well. They've both come in, and they both played last year, but not into the role that they're playing this year, especially not Paul, because I don't think he played a full game last year at all or started. And working with him has been really great, and he's doing a heck of a job.
James, Lance has made a lot about building off the frustrations of not being selected for a bowl game last year. How was that carried over into this year's motivation?
We definitely take it as a chip on our shoulder, not to be recognized, not to be selected for a bowl game. So, I mean, that's something we definitely talk about. Something we talk about is leave no doubt. So, getting 6 wins isn't enough, and we can't leave it up to other people to decide our fate.
And what do you make of this historic start, 4-0, and the chance to match a school record going back to the 1800s?
I think it's awesome, but I just think we got to take it a week at a time still, and not look too far ahead. I mean, history is all great, but I just want to keep winning.
Lance, what do you attribute the offensive line's early season success to?
Well, I think James hit it on a lot of it is preparation and there's no one in our program that watches more film than James O'Hagan, and it starts there and from the time we arrived as a staff, James was the first one that reached out and said, "Coach, I'll do whatever it takes. I wanna help build this program into a winner." And he's lived up to that each and every year. He's come in and talked about what can I do more when things weren't going well? How can I be a better leader? He has essentially at times made the offensive line room his second home, as far as he'll do his homework there. He'll watch more film. Hey, Coach, I saw this when I was watching film. All the things that you really want, especially of your upperclassmen, somebody that you need at the center position. Paul Nosworthy, he had mentioned earlier. Paul's a young man is very talented and taking care of everything and evolving into being a good football player at the college level. For different people come at different times, and James knew that we needed Paul to take a step in maturity and in his play and everything, and made it his priority over the summer to make sure he spent a lot of time with him. He has helped Paul. Paul was one of our offensive players of the week last week. So you take some of that group, and then you take the fact that Evan Kasarczyk and Tomas have played a lot of football. So this group has seen a lot. So, I mean, there's a lot of different ways that people do things, but at the end now they've been able, as you said, through studying, seeing different things and recognizing it, and now it's not foreign to them. Then you go to the quarterback. And an experienced quarterback has been able to see things and recognize and get us out of plays. I think our RPO schemes a lot of times give you the opportunity to be right, or at least stay in a positive situation and avoid negative plays. And then the recognition for our running backs to be involved in protection as well. So it's a collaborative effort. And that's not even getting into the Darrell Leipold and the job that he does with our line. He's an excellent teacher. He's not maybe the old school offensive line coach. That gonna motivate through fear and yelling. He's as good a teacher as we have, and I think you need that in today's college football in the offensive line position.
Lance, when you first arrived here and coming off the record that you had in Wisconsin, how have you been able to maintain your patience knowing there was going to be some growing pains in the transition to get to this point where you're 4-0?
You did spend a lot of time where they're not to say that the losses did eat at us, as a staff, because we want to deliver a winning program to this community. But I guess the best way to answer that is, win or lose, the approach has to stay the same. And you have to stay consistent in what you're doing and what you expect if you ever want to maintain success. So it isn't like we changed drastically offensive scheme, defensive schemes. What we were trying to do, rely on a lot of trickeration and things like that to get us over the hump to try to win a game, because that's short-lived. So I would think our players would attest as well, is that, yeah, we might have modified some things, maybe in our practice approach or doing something like that, but the day-to-day things that we expect of our guys, I don't think has wavered, our expectations. Just like we talked this week, though, now that you've experienced some success, you can't forget the small things that help get you there. And so if we reflect back on our last stop, maintaining the consistency without spending a lot of time looking in the rearview mirror, we've got to stay focused. And I told them, I said, I'll probably be on you harder now about small things than I ever was before, because we're not going to let it get away.
In that sense, is there any sense of validation seeing the results and the 7-game winning streak dating back to last season?
Validation
to how your plan worked, to how your, I guess, to borrow a phrase from the Bills, the process worked.
Yeah, I don't know. We've always believed in it. We believed in the people that I've learned from. Again, we have a responsibility as coaches to get our players in the best position to win games. The validation to things is giving them the opportunity to win. It's about them. This isn't about validating anything from the past per se. I want them to have the best experience. James referred to, we got to find a way to keep getting better so that we don't let ourselves be on the outside again.
Lance, you're facing a unique offense in the triple option that Army runs. How is your program prepared to face this offense?
Well, we've played them the last 2 years. Our program has gone against them. There's times, we've battled with them. Overtime win 2 years ago, a close defeat last year where we let the lead slip away. It's challenging. The thing that's probably a little more challenging this year is that the game's a little bit later in the schedule. Past years, we've been able to incorporate probably more work during fall camp to dedicate to it because the game was coming sooner in the schedule. This year, it's not quite that way, so that's one of the uniqueness. I mean, not only is the offense unique, they're playing really well. Their 2 losses are the top 25 teams in the country. Just close to being number 5 team in the country. So that part we all know, we understand, we respect. Our defense understands the huge challenge of having to be disciplined and assignment sound. And that offense, because of what they do, they're very good at complementing all those plays as well. It's not just stopping this one, because they've got another answer when you do something. It is really a chess match of sorts when you play against them, because they've always got something else they can come back to within that scheme. And then just about when you least expect it, then there's the play action pass off of it.
In that sense, there's also the pressure on your offense. This is a team averaging 40 minutes of time of possession, almost 41. I mean, how do you deal with that
I don't want to say the word pressure, but yeah, you have to maximize your possessions because there's not going to be as many. There's just not. Statistics will show that. Their time of possession, your time of getting the ball, so you can see that. So executing on both sides is crucial. They're going to maintain the majority of the time. The total numbers of plays in this game may be less than most college games because of that. So those are things we've all talked about and making sure that we're aware of.
James, is that going to be hard for you guys offensively to be standing around on the sidelines, maybe double the amount of time than you're used to? I think you had 7 possessions in the first half of the game. This past Saturday, you might not get 7 of the game.
Well, we just got to be patient and not press, like I said. I think yesterday we just got to make sure that, like you said as well, that we maximize our possessions, and really every time we're on the field, we gotta capitalize and view it as an opportunity to score.
You raised your eyebrows when I mentioned 41 minutes of time of possession. What do you make of that number?
I mean, it's pretty crazy to imagine 3/4 of a football game pretty much. One team has the ball for, but I mean, yeah, I think our defense will do a good job this week, though. I mean, they work tremendously hard. So,
with all that being said, what's the biggest focus for you guys this week?
Well, I think, again, holistically playing our best fundamental football that we can and then execute. I think that's what it has to be. You can't hurt yourself with penalties and turnovers. They're excellent as well in ball security. And again, being assignment sound, and some of that is patience. And then even last year's game, we had a chance to get the ball back. They had a fake punt with about 2 minutes to go, and then they just take a knee. So all 3 facets have to be in sync, but again, I think everything we've talked about every week to this point, it's pretty exciting for these guys that they've been able to play to this opportunity against a good opponent here at home.
So, Coach, a lot's being made about the Army offense and their time of possession, but their defense has been playing really well too. They played 2 teams in back-to-back weeks who were averaging over 40 points and kept them to 3 touchdowns in regulation. How do you look to attack that defense?
Well, their defensive coordinator, Jay Bateman, does an excellent job. They give you a lot of multiple looks and try to confuse you with some things, but yet at the same time try to stay as sound as they can, not to give up big plays, so they try to be disruptive. But again, their whole philosophy is intertwined as well, is that their defense isn't on the field as much, so they're a little bit more fresh, don't have to rotate quite as much. And because of that, their offense is partially, a component of their defense, that those points aren't being scored when you only have 15 minutes of time of possession. So again, that's going to be a challenge for us. Last year we created some big plays. I think this year we're going to be able to sustain some drives ourselves. We'll have to create a little bit better running game. I think last year Tyree was our leading rusher in that game. Right now Tyree's not a major component of our run game. So those are going to be things that again will have to be something that we'll have to execute well on.
Coach, playing against Army linebacking core very important. Oklahoma had 2 linebackers, over 20 tackles. So with Cleo coming off of MAC Defensive Player of the Week, how important is it for him to kind of lead that unit? Because he's probably going to be the leader out there. That's going to be really mostly in charge of stopping that Army attack.
Well, I think each and every week Khalil will be pretty important to us. But yes, in a game like this, and the run game, and the fullback dive game, and everything else, along with quarterback runs, there's going to be a lot of things. Now, a lot of things start up front too, because we've got to keep people off of him. And a lot of times it's our responsibility of our defensive line to occupy blockers and be gap sound and be able to do that, and then it goes out to the defensive ends and being able to play the option and doing their responsibilities. So it's a front 7 real challenge, and then everyone needs to tackle well. But Khalil, true freshman James Patterson, it'll be a good test for him. Jordan Collier, who's a senior, but Jordan hasn't played a lot against Army in the past. Last year we played with Ishmael Hargrove and Jared Franklin. So it's going to be a good test for that group. But again, one I know they're preparing hard for.
Kim Lewis and Anthony Johnson, will they be available this week against Army?
Yeah, we hope so. Right now, we're not sure at this time.
Mm-hmm. What is the nature of their injuries?
Legs.
Anything else for Coach or James? All right, they're available for one-on-ones.